Good morning, I'm Anupama. I work for B-GHUD. This video concerns the words that Mr. Abraham Verghese will analyze and break down the meaning to a simple form. This is being conducted by B-GHUD. The first word is bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy, yes. Bureaucracy is actually a political word used to explain the civil servants working in government or in any other institutions who are responsible for the internal conduct of the civil service. They are a very powerful group of people who can influence ministers directly or indirectly, and they are the people who can, as it were, delay legislation also, or speed up legislation depending upon the instructions that the government gives, particularly the Prime Minister. So you see, they have got the ability to control things sitting in their offices, and they form a very important part of the strength of any establishment, especially a government establishment.
Okay, sir. The next word is euthanasia.
Euthanasia. It's a medical term, and it means that people would want to leave this earth, would prefer to die than experience the illness that they are suffering from, which is terminal anyway. Now, there have been, as many of you all would know, many objections to this whole idea, but it is now getting more and more acceptable because the suffering of the people involved in these illnesses or subject to these illnesses really suffer a lot of pain and agony, and their quality of life has effectively gone. So euthanasia is that word where you are seeking the easy passage out of life through death.
Right, sir. The next word is cohabitation.
Cohabitation. Well, it's a lovely word. I tend to ask myself, aren't husband and wife cohabiting anyway? But really, the technical meaning is that it is a living together between a boyfriend and a girlfriend. Okay, cohabitation. It doesn't have to be boyfriend and girlfriend. It can be any other mature partner where there is a willing and conscious decision to decide to live together.
Okay. What do you mean by dogmatic beliefs?
Dogmatic beliefs is where you are very determined, you're very adamant, you're very what can I say, pig-headed about believing in something and holding on to it, irrespective of sometimes the reasoning from the other side. So you're being very dogmatic, okay? And dogmatic brings about a certain stern character also that tells you that the person is immovable, but it is not like a person who is difficult to sway, but is not dogmatic, okay? He can be swayed by reason, whereas a dogmatic person has difficulty in accepting anybody else's reasoning.
Right. What does it mean by etiquette?
Etiquette is actually the behavior of people with people, and also in open functions where you have to conduct yourself in a certain manner that society expects from you. Okay? Now, there are different forms of etiquette in different societies, though of course we tend to think as etiquette in the manner in which the Western world has put etiquette before us. But we also have certain etiquettes. We have etiquettes during marital times. We have met etiquettes before, if you're being christened or going to the temple or having the 28th day. There are numerous kinds of behavior, of conduct within a society that is called etiquette.
Right. The next word is inflation.
Inflation. Well, it's an economic term. It's very broad and difficult to explain, but I'll try and make it as simple as I can understand it. And that is that there is a greater demand for goods and services than there is the supply, particularly with goods. And because there is a difference between the supply function and the demand function, the demand would be effective on the supply part of it, whereby they try and control the prices, or rather inflate the prices, so that the demand can actually be met by those who have the money for it. That also then creates a huge profit, and that profit contributes towards inflation because the demand is far greater than the supply.
Right. What does it mean by geriatrics?
Geriatrics is another medical term. It refers to old people who are unstable and who have reached more or less the end of their lives and require special treatment, medical treatment, so that the rest of their life can be a life of quality rather than existence. And people are therefore admitted into geriatric wards, but are specialist doctors who provide them with specialist medicines till their time is over.
Yes. So, what do you mean by juvenile delinquency?
Juvenile delinquency, it is actually a failure of juveniles, meaning young people, to abide by the standards laid in society, and by not conforming, they are being delinquent. Okay? It causes all kinds of problems, but one must also realize that it is at an age period when the children are, well, you won't say they are children anymore, they are adolescents, are maturing. And you find a huge change in the body, in the attitude, in the behavior, in everything about that individual during this particular period. And that can also be classified as delinquency because they get up to all kinds of social behavior that society finds difficult to accept.
What does it mean by vocational education?
Vocational education is actually having a professional education, which is a vocational, and it is a specialized vocation, which means a specialized job. You have got avocation also, and avocation is actually a term to say that you have a very great grasp, let's say, of physics, but your mind is actually in art, and you use art as the avocation, something that effectively supports your vocation.
So, what does it mean by liberalization?
Liberalization is again an economic sort of term. I think it was John Stuart Mill who started using it. It is a term whereby you have a view that is broad and acceptable of most all things. Tolerance of religion, tolerance of race, tolerance of culture, and effectively it is generally presumed that people who are liberal have got a more open mind and a slightly more educated outlook towards life. They are liberals. They don't particularly fit into very conservative societies which are strict about their particular culture and so on and so forth. Neither do they abide by the very loose left side of politics, not even the very loose, but the other side of politics, which is the left wing, because there are structural political differences between the two also. And the liberals are people basically who are in the middle path. It does not mean, mind you, that the liberals can't join with the conservatives or the liberals can't join with the communists. they can where necessary.
Okay. So what does the term nepotism mean?
Nepotism is a term by which people in society who are in power and authority use their or bring in their relatives and those people close to them into positions that they would not otherwise have achieved on their own, because it is a form of favor. You are favoring somebody over another just because you know them, or they are a relative of yours, or they are some very close associate, and you want to show your power in a way and keep them close to you so that they can be of help to you. That kind of form, or you've done them a favor, or they have done you a favor, in which case, it is a sign of nepotism.
What does it mean by nanotechnology?
Nanotechnology is actually reducing an item to a certain point, to a certain meter, where you start developing new material that are technologically advanced and are applicable to modern day development. Okay. Now, nanotechnology is a slightly difficult word, but I have tried to put it in as simple a meaning as I can understand it.
Okay. So what does it mean by brain drain?
Brain drain is effectively the movement of people, particularly those who are qualified, from one country or one region to another. Brain drain can occur from villages to cities, from cities to villages, from country to country, and so on. And the movement of these people means effectively that that particular place or that particular country has been drained of its brains to some degree or the other, because those people will effectively use their knowledge and experience and what they learned in one region or one country for the benefit of another country. That together is considered as brain drain.
What is human rights?
Human rights, my word, that is very vast. You have a Human Rights Commission in the highest of bodies in the world. It is actually your right to live, to live peaceably, your right to free speech, to free expression, and a multitude of such other behavior that does not clash with normal human behavior. Okay? In other words, you can't say, I'm using my human rights to kill him. Okay? You might have a right to, but the result is not justifiable. Okay? But human rights expressed as freedom of speech, freedom of education, freedom of religion, and so on and so forth, is all that encompassed. And I would say that it is a very much more positive term, okay, that you will generally find in all constitutions around the world.
Yes, sir. The next word is recession.
Recession is where the country's economic power goes down due to various factors. You see, a world war, for example, can bring about recession. But that is where the recession means that goods are very difficult to get, goods are very highly priced, people are forced to live in a lower standard than what they were used to, because there aren't sufficient goods to be had in the market, or if there are, you don't have the capacity to pay for it. So recession is also a time in the cycle of economic behavior where instead of maintaining a constant high or being up the slope of a graph, you're actually going down the slope of the graph.
Okay, sir. What does discrepancy mean?
Discrepancy means a shortage. Okay. Now, when you do accounts, you will find that at the end of the day, the cashier will come and say, "Sir, I've counted the money. This is what it is. Here's a list of how it is made up, how many 20-pound notes, how many 10-pound notes, or dollars, or whatever, or rupees, okay, and the two must match. If the two do not match, there is what we call a discrepancy.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So that is something that you will investigate.
Right.
All right?
Okay, sir. What does it mean by a scapegoat?
Scapegoat is actually using some excuse, somebody else, to try and escape from the allegation that you're being really accused of. So you use somebody who's, let's just say, very quiet, or somebody who is easy to bully. This is, a bad habit, of course, or easy to pass off, and you say, "Oh, I didn't do it. Abe did it." Okay, and there you're giving Abe, you're making Abe the scapegoat. Okay, in other words, you're shifting blame from yourself to somebody else.
So the next word is xenophobia.
Xenophobia.
Right.
Xenophobia is a dislike for foreigners in your country. It's a very, very dangerous characteristic of men, and it talks about nationalism effectively that underlies it. In other words, you will not like, for example, the Chinese might not like, or the Koreans or the Japanese or the Mongolians may not like anybody with open eyes, with aquiline noses, and with a dark skin, and use that as a basis to exclude people who don't belong to their category. Vice versa also. Okay? It's a very dangerous characteristics of politics. It's a dirty form of politics, but it's very difficult to make out, excepting, for example, if somebody comes out openly, or you see them consistently behaving in a given manner that clearly is xenophobic.
Okay. So what does it mean by volatile?
Volatile is being explosive. Okay. Now, in a speech, you can say that Abraham Verghese was very volatile about the subject of racism, or about eating biryani, or anything else. Volatile is being powerful and loud, okay, and effectively trying to give your thought or your expressions greater strength and more emphasis, okay. And volatile is also being dangerous, okay.
Okay, sir.
For example, let's say you show somebody a bomb over there, and say, listen, in that state, the bomb is very volatile. In other words, if you touch or move it or whatever else, it's bound to blow. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so thank you so much. That is the end of the words. So hope this video was helpful for each and every one of you watching the video. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Namaskaram.
Namaskaram.